Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Goldie Show. I was thinking of names to come up with, and I just realized, I'm not that creative. So we're just calling it the Goldie Show here. And we're going to have a very interesting show today. And if you like, you're more than welcome to join the conversation on YouTube. I will be responding to comments there. So what we're going to be talking about today is this article that came out. Let me just pull it up here. So it's this article right here. It's from this left-wing tabloid magazine called Haaretz. And the only reason that I'm really speaking about this in English, and I just want to preface this, is because um, I know that for the Jewish and the Israeli community, Haaretz is like this tabloid trash magazine. They're the same magazine that basically called Hamas terrorists freedom fighters. But Iranians aren't very familiar with Haaretz, especially those who are not so much involved in Israeli media. But what this does, the reason I'm speaking about this and the reason I'm going to dive into this article, and not necessarily the article itself, but sort of the fallout and the aftermath. The reason is because this article and the actions from it really show the conspiracy theory, and it really shows. So first of all, like it kind of exposes the conspiracy theorists, but it also exposes the army of the red and black. So when we Iranians, we speak about the Islamists and the communists, and the leftists who sort of joined forces back in the late 1970s to overthrow the Shah at the time and bring in the Islamic Republic. They relied a lot on lies, and they relied a lot on conspiracy theories to tarnish the reputation of the Shah at the time, Shahanshah Aryamir. And right now, those same exact groups of people and the same exact media outlets that supported the overthrow of the Shah and supported the Islamic regime, they are now creating and promoting these fake news articles. So we're going to dive into that because this is a very, very good example that's happening right in front of you of this army of the red and the black. And Funky, I agree with you. So I'm gonna share your comment here. So Funky Brewster, great name by the way. He says Haaretz is the most radical left publication ever, worse than the Pravda in the Soviet Union, 100%. So again, the purpose of this my show today is twofold. It's one, to show the Iranian community, don't be too worried about this trash article, because again, no one takes Haaretz seriously. And for those of us who are familiar with, English media and Israeli media, we know this, but the Iranian community, especially the Farsi-speaking community, isn't as familiar. So it's more to sort of to, explain this to them. Now, I did make a video explaining this in Farsi, and I posted that on my social medias, and those that are going viral, that's all in Farsi, but in English as well. So the first purpose is, it's more of a smaller purpose, is to show the Iranians, who are following this and who are not familiar with Haaretz, that it's a tabloid publication, completely irrelevant, completely useless. No one pays attention to it. But it's more so to show non-Iranians that when we speak about the disinformation campaign, when we speak about the army of the red and black, this is exactly what we're talking about. And it's not by coincidence that many non-Iranians are sort of seeing, all of these radical leftist groups that are joining the pro-Hamas, fake Palestinian cause. It's because, these leftists and these communists and these socialists, they and the Islamists are united in one goal, and that goal is anti-imperialism. They both seek to destroy Western civilization, albeit for different purposes, right? So the Islamists want to destroy Western civilization because they want Sharia law, they want like an Islamic caliphate, and the communists and progressives want to create some sort of like weird communist utopia, which of course we know does not work and has not worked. But that's where their unity ends. And um, as we see what happened in Iran after the 1979 Islamic Revolution, even though the progressives and the communists were allied with the Islamists, as soon as the Islamists took over, they immediately executed all of the most of the communists and progressives. So it's a story that we've seen before, especially as Iranians. We're very familiar with it. So that's sort of what we're going to dive into. We're going to dive into the conspiracy theory and how it is, or the conspiracy theories that are promoted by the left, by the Islamists, and how they are now pushing this fake news narrative, which of course is also incredibly anti-Semitic, right? I mean, they're pushing this whole narrative that Israel is behind the opposition. One of the most anti-Semitic tropes you could possibly think of, and this is something that the Iranian left is now pushing. And of course, these leftists, no matter where they're from, they always have, they're always united in their anti-Israel and anti-Semitic ideology. So that's what we're going to dive into here. And guys, if you can, like the stream, retweet it, and if you can, if you're able to, switch over to YouTube, join me on my YouTube channel, because I am trying to grow my YouTube and focusing more on there. So let's get this conversation started. So where did this article come from? So let me pull up the article itself. I'm not gonna like read it. I'm not gonna get into it because it's it's a whole bunch of nonsense. But just and again, the way it works with the leftists and the Islamists and the communists is they're never going to read the entire article, right? They're never going to read the entire article. They're just going to look at the headline and post the headline, and then just go based off of that. So when you look at this article here, it says the Israeli influence operation in Iran pushing to reinstate the Shah monarchy. So this article out, like this title outright, is a flat out lie. So this guy, Omar, and I'm going to get into Omar because these are not good people. And the one thing I can say about Iranians, especially those who are active on social media, is if and when something happens, they will immediately look up and find the receipts. They will find dirt. They will find any and all information. And Iranian social media on X, in Farsi language, has been incredibly active, and they have been keeping receipts of everything that has been going on. And I will share some of their tweets with you, some of their posts. Their posts are in Farsi, so I will, I'll share and I'll translate for you. But the good thing about, Iranian social media is that people, like literally every Iranian is a citizen journalist. And one of the reasons that they're so good at it, we as a community are so good at it, is because Iran is currently occupied by a totalitarian Islamic dictatorship. We actually don't have media, right? We don't have like reliable media outlets that we can, rely upon, because everything is controlled by the Islamic Republic, right? It's like an Orwellian dystopia, right? Like everything is controlled by Khamenei and the Islamic Republic. Everything that comes out is essentially fake news. The only way that those of us who are, outside of Iran, in order for us to get reliable information about what's happening in Iran, we literally rely on other Iranians. We rely on citizen journalists. And there are a lot of accounts who are very big, who tweet, only in Farsi, tweet only in Persian. And, they're constantly sharing this information. And I will share some of that with you, because the first thing that these Iranian accounts did is they went and they looked into The authors, they looked into Haaretz because, you know, they didn't have any familiarity with Haaretz. No one had ever, you know, none of them had ever heard of Haaretz before. But, you know, to their credit, they got down to the crux of the matter very, very quickly. They were able to figure it out within, you know, like 3 or 4 hours, right? Like what the deal was with the article. Meanwhile, the so-called elitists, you know, the educated, progressive left academia garbage nonsense, they never bothered to go and look at the origin of the study. Even if they had, they probably decided to ignore it because this is the narrative that they wanted to push. Because these people are enemies of Iran, they're enemies of the Iranian people, and they're all somehow connected. And this article, when we examine the people who are pushing and promoting this fake news article, you will see that connection between people who are actively part of the Islamic Republic and all the way to people on the far left who claim they are human rights activists, and yet they are literally pushing the same narrative, the same ideology, the same fake news article as the Islamic Republic. This is, I mean, they can't hide it anymore. This fake news and this union between the red and the black is how they were able to push their false narrative and promote their lies against the Shah of Iran back in the late 70s. However, now, because of social media, because of internet, and because of mainly X, right? I mean, X is a huge platform when it comes to journalism. Iranians are able to fight back, and you know there are millions and millions of citizen journalists in Iran and outside, of course, as well, who are pushing back on this narrative. And that's going to be the focus of today's show, is to show you, especially my non-Iranian audience, how and why the Islamic regime has remained in power for so long. Because every time, you know, the closer we get to the finish line, the more desperate these people become. So this, you know, and I actually do have the Citizen Lab article, and we're going to go through the Citizen Lab article. I'm going to show you exactly what the article says, and I'm going to break it down for you. But one thing that's really interesting is that this journalist, you know, journalist right here, Omar Ben Jacob or whatever, Iranians went and they looked at his Twitter, they looked at his feed, and they noticed something very interesting. So this guy here, I'm going to share this photo. So this guy right here, he is retweeting NIAC. Okay, so what is NIAC? NIAC is the political lobby group of the Islamic Republic in the United States. It's called the National Iranian American Council. So you know how like the Muslim Brotherhood has all these like Muslim associations and groups in the United States, you know, that you know claim they're representing Muslims, but they're actually representing Islamic terrorism, and they're secretly, you know, getting funding from Qatar and whatever. So NIAC is the Iranian version of that. NIAC is very, very closely associated with the Islamic Republic. Anyone who works with NIAC or affiliated with NIAC is affiliated with the Islamic Republic itself. And you know the evidence is there; it's incredibly obvious. And it got to the point where I believe it was back in 2012. It was maybe about like 10 years ago. Um, an Iranian in the United States called out NIAC, and they said that NIAC is part of the Islamic Republic lobby group, and NIAC actually took them to court, right? So again, another example of how Islamists will use lawfare and will use the freedoms that people have in Western countries to try and silence those who speak out against the Islamic regime, against Islamists. NIAC took that gentleman who spoke out against them to court, claiming that what he was saying was defamatory. And what in fact happened is that the judge looked at the evidence and said, based on what I am seeing before me, it is a perfectly reasonable assumption to make that NIAC is affiliated with the Islamic Republic. So even their defamation case backlash. So they tried to silence Iranians and they weren't able to do so. So here's the author of that trash Haaretz article, literally retweeting Nyack. Okay, so that's the first thing, and they haven't just done it once. They've done it several times. So here you can see him. Uh, so here you can see him, again, like he's just constantly retweeting Nyack, which is the Islamic Republic's lobby group. So, right on its face, as soon as Iranians saw that, they're like, wow, okay, so this is definitely a hit piece. And um, there is literally no reason for a non-Iranian to support Nyack unless you're somehow affiliated with them. So, that right there, I don't know if this guy is in Israel or not, but if he's in Israel, I don't know, someone needs to contact like Shin Bet or whatever the internal security forces is. And I don't know, monitor this guy because if he's retweeting Nyack posts, that guy is literally a threat to your national security. Um, just say. So you want to keep an eye out on that, especially if you're in Israel. And I don't know if he's not in Israel, wherever, whichever government, keep an eye on him because he's basically promoting a lobby group that works for the Islamic Republic and is funded by the Islamic Republic. So there we go. I want to get into the actual Citizen Lab article here. The Citizen Lab article is available on X. If you like, you know what, why don't I'll come here. So you can see the Citizen Lab article. It's posted right on their feed. So, if you go to Citizen Lab, it's an academic research group at U of T focusing on the intersection of technologies, human rights, and global security. And then, they have this pinned up top. So this came out October 3rd. We've uncovered a coordinated network of fake X profiles that have been spreading AI-generated content to induce revolt in Iran. We call this network Prison Break. So we're going to dive into this now. So here's their study. Okay. Now, the one thing I want to make very clear is that we Iranians, let me just see. So Jewish Samantha says most Israelis hate Haaretz as it is. Yes, absolutely, 100%. And I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that you are sharing your thoughts as well, Samantha, because a lot of Iranians are not familiar with Haaretz. I did make a video about this in Farsi. I shared it on my social medias explaining all of this, that it is very far left, but I'm glad that you're here and you're confirming what I'm saying, because it's always nice to, it's nice for people to know that, what I'm saying isn't coming out of nowhere. So if we go to the study itself, now the one thing I wanted to point out is that we Iranians are well aware that the Islamic Republic operates heavily within the cyber sphere, right? Like they literally have a ministry called the Ministry of Cyber Warfare, or something like that. Like it's a ministry that's dedicated to cyber warfare, essentially, right? They spend, my understanding is upwards of $1 billion a year on trolls and bots and influencers and a whole bunch of other people to try and dominate social media because they are afraid of the truth coming out. So they will try to dominate it using bots and things like that. And then we've seen a lot of them, a lot of these accounts. And some of them are bots, some of them are real people. So this is common knowledge for Iranians. But what's interesting is that this is common knowledge for us, and this is something that we have been speaking out for a very long time, but a lot of people didn't believe us. I've spoken about it in the past, and it's just been ignored. People are like, oh, she's a conspiracy theorist, blah, blah, blah. But what's interesting is as soon as this research group comes out and says, oh, no, there's like an AI influence operation aimed at overthrowing the regime, what's interesting to me is that I'm curious as to who these people are and what sort of understanding they actually have about the information warfare and the cyber army of the Islamic Republic. Because one of the things that the Islamic Republic does and has been doing for a very long time is they will infiltrate groups who are trying to overthrow the Islamic Republic. They will infiltrate and they will, make it seem like they're part of the movement, but they're not. And the reason they infiltrate is because they want to sabotage the movement. So, John, you make a very good point. Cyber attack and fake accounts, and also buying the simple-minded people, US and EU, through Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole other issue with cryptocurrency as well. And of course, this is exactly what cyber terrorists do. I certainly agree with that. So one of the things that these cyber terrorists do is they will attack, or they will infiltrate legitimate movements. And then once they infiltrate, they will try to, of course, sabotage, because internal sabotage for them is one of the best ways to do it. Now, we Iranians, and by Iranians, I don't mean myself, I mean like literally Iranians inside of Iran as well. If anything, they are even more familiar with how the Islamic Republic operates, because the Islamic Republic has been trying to gaslight Iranians for 47 years. I mean, again, they are a totalitarian dictatorship. Think of 1984, like an Orwellian dystopia that's on acid, right? Like that's how insane they are. They monitor everything. You literally have very, very like little to none privacy. The only way that Iranians in the country can even communicate safely with those of us outside of the country is through VPNs, and oftentimes through burner phones. And that's one of the reasons why many of the accounts that I'm about to share with you, these accounts are not using their real names. They're not using their real photos. There's nothing there to identify who they are. And that is because they are literally risking their lives by sharing this information. They are risking not just their lives, but the lives of their family members as well. Because again, they're in a totalitarian dictatorship. Speaking out against them is a crime punishable by death. And it is a very, very horrible death. It's execution by hanging. And it's not a quick one. They slowly lift, they wrap a rope around your neck and they slowly lift you from a crane so that your neck doesn't break, so that you asphyxiate. And it's incredibly painful. Sometimes it can take up to 30 minutes to die. And the entire time that you're up there hanging from a crane, there's a bunch of people down below just saying Allahu Akbar over and over again. So it's a horrific, horrific way to die. But this is how, this is this reality of living in an Islamic dictatorship governed by Sharia law. So let's go through this influence, this, study here. The first thing about this study is that, again, I question the people who actually did this study and how familiar they are with the hashtags and the messaging that is used by King Reza Pahlavi and his team, like the legitimate Iranian opposition. So the accounts that they refer to, and we'll go through them, the accounts that they refer to have absolutely nothing to do with the movement of the legitimate Iranian opposition. The hashtags that these fake accounts use have nothing to do with the legitimate Iranian opposition. So right away, it's a little bit misleading in the sense that they don't you know what, let's just go through it, and then I can explain it better if we go through it here. So let me just change this around a little bit here. I still have to put on like two monitors so I can do this better, but okay. So key findings. A coordinated network of more than 50 inauthentic X profiles is conducting AI-enabled influence operation. Okay, so 50, let's even say 100. Let's say there's 100 inauthentic X profiles. We Iranians, we already know that there are thousands tens of thousands of inauthentic X profiles that are run not just by the Islamic Republic, but by the communists and the socialists, right? Like the MEK and those people, they also have large bot armies, and we're fighting with those bot armies all the time. So this isn't really anything new. So they kind of speak about, okay, these inauthentic profiles, and then they talk about this. I mean, the fact that they say, and then they also say that these accounts became active in January of 2025, and they started to say, we want a revolution. Well, calls for a revolution did not start in 2025. Okay, so for them to, so again, to say that, okay, so these bots became active in January of 2025. Okay, fine, but Iranian people have been calling for a revolution, have been calling to overthrow the Islamic Republic for decades, I mean, one of the biggest mass protests and uprisings happened in the Green Movement around 2012, right? So again, for these people to make this just analysis based on what 50 accounts said in January of 2025, oh, it's sketchy in and of itself. But that's besides the point. Let's go look at some of these accounts, because this is where it gets interesting. So they're claiming that this was influence operations run by the Israeli government. I mean, I don't get that. But if we go to the accounts themselves, this is where it gets interesting. Okay, so this is like a random account. Oh wow, what a loud explosion I heard. I mean, I don't even know who this person is, of course. Now, these are all AI bot accounts, right? But what's interesting is the hashtags they're using. So I have been heavily involved on X. I have been heavily involved on social media, with the, as a very outspoken and vocal part of the Iranian opposition to overthrow the Islamic Republic. I have been advocating for regime change for over a decade. So of course I'm not AI, I'm not a bot, certainly not paid by Israel. Although if they want to put me on the pay list, I'm here. But anyway, so I can tell you that as someone who has been very active on the social media scene, and of course when it comes to the online activities, one thing about the Iranian opposition, the legitimate Iranian opposition, which I'm a part of, is that we have certain hashtags that we use. There are certain hashtags that go trending and that go viral. The two hashtags that this person or this AI account used, I have never before seen in my life. Like, these are not hashtags that any legitimate Iranian account has been using, especially, and I'm going to focus on the Iranian accounts that support King Reza Pahlavi, right? Because we're going to go back to, of course, the article, which here it says, the article itself says, Israeli influence operation in Iran pushing to reinstate the Shah monarchy. So again, remember the Trash Haaretz article here, the Trash Haaretz article is claiming that the study shows that there's an influence operation to reinstate the Shah. So you would assume that within that study, there would be a link between Israel and the Shah, the King of Iran, right? But when we go to the study itself, we don't see that link. We don't see that connection. In fact, the study itself never once referred to Pahlavi and never once referred to the Shah. And again, these hashtags, like, so this one says Faryad Sa'at Hasht, which means yelling at 8 o'clock. And then this one says Yademun nemire, which means we won't forget. Um, I have never seen these hashtags. Sorry. got a message here. I have never seen these hashtags. Sorry, I've never seen these hashtags used by any person who supports King Reza Pahlavi. So there's the first one. And then here's another one. Now these hashtags are in English, right? So kids, did you hear the sound of explosion from Evin prison? Hashtag urgent, hashtag Evin must be freed, hashtag we will not forgive. Again, these are not hashtags that I have ever seen be used. I mean, maybe the urgent one, but I mean, urgent is something that like everyone uses for whatever. But in terms of actual hashtags that are used by supporters of King Reza Pahlavi, never seen it, never seen it. And especially in English, because I tweet mostly in English because I'm more familiar, speaking and tweeting in English. So again, and then looking at the number of likes or whatever. So okay, this one has 173 views. I mean, this one has 3.6 thousand likes. I mean, sure, but so this is interesting. This is how the bots are involved here. So 3.6 thousand likes, but only one comment. Something's off. So obviously, like it's very obvious this is like some sort of this is being promoted by bots somehow. No one's questioning that. But again, these hashtags have nothing to do with the legitimate Iranian opposition. We've never used these hashtags themselves. And then it says the video was flagged, it's irrelevant. Okay, so here we go. So here's some more random hashtags. So urgent, Evin prison, urgent, Evin must be freed. So now they're claiming that this is inciting an uprising or whatever the case might be. So again, it's just like these 50 accounts here. None of these hashtags have ever been used by legitimate Iranian opposition. Okay. Again, like AI generated images, whatever. So broader narrative overthrowing the Iranian regime. So now they're going on this. Okay, so here's more like tweets here with hashtags. So this says caution Iran. Now what's interesting is, again, like these hashtags are not Jangemanis. Okay, so this hashtag here says Jangemanis, which means not our war. Again, these are not hashtags that have been used by legitimate Iranian opposition. Okay, but what's very important about this article, again, like 8 o'clock shout out, like it's just completely irrelevant. But the one thing that's important about this study, so again, this isn't the Haaretz article. This is the study itself. The study itself is focusing on a number of like approximately 50 AI generated or fake accounts that are claiming to promote something. Now, whether or not it's true, I don't know. But what's interesting is that they have only focused on certain accounts and they've only focused on certain of their tweets. What's interesting is that they've actually here, let me pull this up now. I'm going to pull up the bookmarks from Iranian social media. So this is one. So this is the first Iranian account that I want to share with you. A very, very what? It's showing an error here. Guys, I just got an error saying that it stopped screen sharing. Do you see the screen share still? Or do you guys still see the screen share? Let me pull it up here. I'm getting a technical error. Okay. No, the screen share is still there, I think. Yeah. Okay. So If you look at this tweet, and I'm going to translate it for you. So, because like I said at the beginning, Iranians on social media, they're all citizen journalists, so they are going to dig to the bottom of anything. So, even though the leftists try to promote this fake Haaretz article, Iranians dug into the actual study and they got a list of the full study. So this account here, Yara Qadimi, great account, is very good at exposing. So here, this person writes, so this list, so it's going to be this list here, and we're going to get into that. So she writes, this list includes all 54 accounts that Citizen Lab has organized and listed as fake accounts. And Haaretz Chapol means like far right, sorry, far left. So she says, and the far right Haaretz has linked them to the Israeli government and Iranian monarchists without any evidence. If you take the time to check out a few of them, you'll see that their posts are mostly either in support of women life freedom or promoting Khamenei or people like Tumaj and Shermin. Some of them also use hashtags like national cooperation so that their tweets would get more views in the monarchists' tweet storms on those days. The screenshot on the right is an example of the tweets from this group. So here's one of the, this one here, one of the bot accounts that was listed in the Citizen Lab report. And then here's something that bot account was tweeted out. So it's literally a picture of Khamenei, right? So how is it that these accounts, which the far left, so this gets back to the crux of the matter, is that the study itself, the Citizen Lab study itself, has nothing to do with King Reza Pahlavi, has nothing to do with the legitimate Iranian opposition, has nothing to do with the legitimate movement to overthrow the Islamic Republic. They are focusing on a small number of accounts, like 50 of them. And I mean, I don't know how 50 accounts can actually uh, influence anything, but that's irrelevant. And if you dig into these accounts are literally promoting the Islamic Republic. They're literally promoting the supreme dictator of the Islamic Republic. Now, even though these accounts are supporting the Islamic Republic, Haaretz, and I urge you and I encourage you to go and look at the study itself and read it thoroughly. Again, the study, it's literally on their X page, Citizen Lab. It's pinned right at the top. Go take a look at it yourself. It's readily available. And nowhere in the study does it talk about King Reza Pahlavi. Nowhere in the study does it talk about the legitimate Iranian opposition. It's just highlighting a few fake accounts. And as I just demonstrated to you, those fake accounts are promoting the Islamic Republic. So make that make sense, okay? Make that make sense. But this is where Haaretz has become. So again, let's go back to Haaretz now. So now that we've established that this study from Citizen Lab has absolutely nothing to do with King Reza Pahlavi, has nothing to do with the legitimate Iranian opposition, has nothing to do with the Iranian monarchists who legitimately want to overthrow the Islamic Republic, and we have been fighting to overthrow the Islamic Republic for a very, very long time. Like I said myself, like over a decade. So we've established that the study has nothing to do with us, and yet Haaretz comes out and claims that there is an Israeli influence operation in Iran pushing to reinstate the Shah monarchy. Like, how insane is that? Literally no proof. Like, the studies are completely irrelevant, and then they make this photoshopped image, and it's just the most bizarre thing. And then, but if you look at the headline, or if you dig down a little bit deeper, it says Citizen Lab found an online network pushed out deepfake videos during Israel's airstrikes on Tehran's Evin prison. Okay, but we already established those deepfake videos. We don't know who they came from. they had nothing to do with King Reza Pahlavi. They had nothing to do with the Iranian opposition, and yet they are trying to claim that this is somehow related. So now that we've established this, the study has nothing to do with the legitimate Iranian opposition. Israel is not behind the legitimate Iranian opposition. We are an independent movement. We have been fighting to overthrow the Islamic regime for decades. And now that we've established that Haaretz is lying, and again, I mean, for the non-Iranians, especially for my Israeli followers, we all know Haaretz is trash. But Iranians were not aware of that. So I'm hoping that at least this first part of my conversation here today demonstrates to you that Haaretz is a trash article and you cannot take it. It's completely baseless. Don't trust anything they say. And of course, as I explained earlier, the author himself, one of the authors, is a big supporter of NIAC, and NIAC is part of the Islamic regime lobby group, right? So these people are behind the scenes, are all working together. But what's even more interesting is I want to go back to what the Iranians are now saying, because it's not necessarily just about what the it's not necessarily just about the fact that Haaretz lied. This goes back to the fact that the Islamists and the communists and the progressives have now been pushing this fake news article. And I'm going to share another Iranian X account with you. And this account is called Joker Nejad. And this account is well known within Iranian social media for exposing the enemies of Iran. And these, I mean, I don't know who runs this account. I'm assuming it's like a group of people, but they have been exposing people who are enemies of Iranians fighting to overthrow the Islamic Republic. And they have also been, of course, exposing people who claim that they are fighting against the Islamic regime and yet are secretly part of the Islamic regime. And these people keep accounts and tabs on everything and everyone, myself included. I mean, if there was probably if there was something sketchy about me, they would have known it by now. But of course, I've always been an open book, and everyone knows that. Otherwise, there would be stuff about me, but there isn't. The only people who attack me are the Islamists and the communists, of course, because they don't like the fact that I call out their nonsense. But so here's this account. If you're interested in learning more about the people who are part of the Islamic regime lobby group, you definitely want to follow this account. Now, they only tweet in Farsi, in Persian, but thankfully, with AI and of course with the X features, you can translate what they're saying. So I'm going to translate this for you, and the translation is generally like 95% accurate. The only time like a translation might not be entirely accurate is when people are using slang or something like that. But even when people are using slang, like, you can usually get the gist of it. So here's what this account says. Pahlavi phobic coalition, new episode. Haaretz newspapers claim about Israel's campaign to promote Prince Reza Pahlavi. In this collaboration, from reformists and principalists to Nayaki leftists, mujahideen, human rights activists, journalists, and members of the cult of madness have all come together. So what is this account referring to here? So again, like I said, back in the late 1970s, there was this unholy alliance between communism and Islamism, the army of the red and the black that united, and they promoted lies about the Shah of Iran at the time, Shahanshah Aryameh, all of which was untrue, by the way, and it was of course later found out to all be lies and fabrications. they promoted, they made all these lies, and the reason that they did so is because they wanted to, of course, overthrow the monarchy at the time and take control. And they were unfortunately successful in doing so because they were supported by a lot of the progressives and academics, and newspapers, Western newspapers at the time as well. Because again, back in the late 70s, communism was a very romantic thing, and there's a whole bunch of nonsense there. But anyway, so all these people spread all these lies about Shahanshah Aryamir, and they, unfortunately were successful in occupying the country. And overnight, they turned Iran, which was once a constitutional monarchy where people had the same freedoms as they had in the West. They turned our beautiful country overnight into a 7th century Islamic hellhole. And now that the Iranian opposition, which is led by King Reza Pahlavi, who is the son of the late Shah and the current Shah of Iran, because the movement has gained, our movement has gained so much support and so much legitimacy, which is the, it's the product of decades worth of his efforts. He has been fighting to overthrow the Islamic Republic since 1979, and the movement has only grown since then. He has the vast majority of support of Iranians inside of Iran and outside of Iran. And that's why they're targeting him. That's why they're targeting him, because he is, King Reza Pahlavi is the only legitimate opposition leader. He is the only person who has been able to unite Iran and Iranians, and the Islamic Republic is afraid. They are afraid of him because he is a very serious threat to their existence. And they know that the end is near. He is gaining more and more support from politicians and governments around the world, and that includes Israel. He has a lot of Israeli support. And I personally am very thankful to Israel for supporting our movement and for recognizing what Iranian people actually want. Because you have to remember, prior to 1979, prior to the Islamic Republic taking over, Iran and Israel were very, very strong allies. And the Islamic Republic tried to hide that. They tried to erase that. They tried, they have claimed for 47 years that Iranians and Israelis are not allies, but that's not true. The reality is that the friendship and allyship of Iranians and Jewish people goes back thousands of years to the time of Cyrus the Great, and this sort of Islamofascist jihadi ideology will never change that. But what is true, unfortunately, is that anti-Semitism is a problem in many societies. Unfortunately, most societies, anti-Semitism can be found, and Iranian society is no different. And you're going to have the extremists on both sides, right? So on one side, you have the Islamists and the woke right who are anti-Semitic. But then on the other side, you will have the leftists, the so-called progressives. You have the communists. You have the MEKs. You have all these people who are also anti-Semitic as well. And so in this photo here, which you can see on the screen, you see a combination of people who range from those who actively support the Islamic Republic all the way to those who support, not support, those who claim they are freedom fighters and human rights activists. They are all, pushing and promoting this Haaretz article. So that's, when this account, Joker Nejad, he speaks about reformists and others. So reformists are people who lobby for the Islamic Republic, and they're the ones who say that, oh, we don't need to overthrow the Islamic regime. We don't need to overthrow them. We just need to reform them. We just need to change them from the inside. And if you negotiate with them, or if you appease them, or if you engage in diplomatic ties, you can reform them. Think of think of like, an abusive boyfriend, right? Or like an abusive partner. Someone says, oh, like they're stuck in an abusive relationship, and they're like, oh no, I can change him, I can fix him. It's, that sort of mentality. But the reality is that the Islamic Republic is a brutal Islamofascist dictatorship that literally yells death to America, death to Israel. You cannot change them, you cannot reform them, but people who are working with the Islamic Republic and are paid by the Islamic Republic will push this reformist narrative, because this reformist narrative helps to maintain the legitimacy of the Islamic Republic um, as like a government within the international sphere, even though we don't view the Islamic Republic as any sort of legitimate government. They are to us an occupying force. They are, Islamic dictatorship that's occupying Iran, needs to be overthrown. So those are the reformists right there. And one example of the reformist is like this guy here, Shrita Parsi. He's the guy who basically created NIAC. He's heavily, like all Iranians know, like this. He's a big supporter of the Islamic Republic, constantly promoting their narrative, pushing their narrative. There's some others here as well, and we'll kind of go through the list here as well. So there's this guy, and then on the other end of the spectrum, so you have people who claim that they are fighting against the Islamic Republic, right? So here's Trita. I guess you can see my mouse there, and then. What's that? Okay. All right. Okay. Can you get rid of that? Okay. So here's this guy Trita Parsi, who literally works for the Islamic Republic. So he's one of the reformists who's pushing this fake news Haaretz article. And then on the other hand, you have this guy here, Kaveh Sharuz, right? And this guy is like, he's this guy in Canada. He claims so he is what you would consider the far left, right? The far left, claims he's an intellectual, progressive, whatever, claims he's fighting against the Islamic Republic, and yet he is constantly attacking the king. He's constantly promoting the lies pushed by the Islamic Republic. And I mean, when we talk about the unholy alliance of the red and the black, this is what we're referring to. Like, these people all suffer from Pahlavi derangement syndrome, right? So how like people on the Americans, or even non-Americans, suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. These people literally suffer from Pahlavi derangement syndrome. They would rather see Iran remain occupied as long as King Reza Pahlavi doesn't go back to the country, right? Like, they are willing to sacrifice the blood of innocent Iranian men, women, and children, like this guy right here, and people like him and his ilk. They will do that. And he actually put out a tweet, a very, very anti-Semitic tweet, right? And actually, I have it here. Let me pull it up. Let me pull up his anti-Semitic tweet, and we'll go through it, because this is how the left infiltrates, right? Like, this is how they infiltrate. Here, let me share this tab here. So I tweeted this out. So a warning. So this is what this guy wrote. He wrote, if you're wondering why pro-Pahlavi messages and attacks on those who don't bow to Pahlavi get tens of thousands of likes, RTs on social media, but Pahlavi events are very poorly attended, it's because it's an AstroTurf Israeli influence operation. So here's my question for you. How the heck did we go from a study? So let's go back to the study here, okay? So how did we go from a study that basically speaks about 50 AI accounts that are pushing, random tweets, and there's no mention of King Reza Pahlavi anywhere in this study, anywhere, right? Like, literally, go look at it yourself. And if you find one mention of King Reza Pahlavi or his supporters in this study, you let me know, because I have not found a single instance where King Reza Pahlavi was mentioned. How did we go from this to to this. How did we go from a study that is talking about these 50 fake accounts, which I've already established are pushing Islamic regime messages and are pushing communist messages, to this so-called, freedom fighter who's fighting against the Islamic Republic, pushing a Haaretz article that is 100% fake news? Do you see that? Like, this is the insanity of these people. And not only that, he's pushing one of the most, one of the worst anti-Semitic tropes about the Jewish people and Israel, right? Like, he's basically saying that it's an astroturf Israeli influence operation. Like, that is wild. That is wild to me. Like, and what's crazy is that this guy, he made this, like, he created this organization in Canada called the Iranian Justice Collective. And the Iranian Justice Collective has been trying to infiltrate the Jewish community. You know, they want to get funds, they want to get Jewish support, whatever. And I think they were maybe a little bit successful, but not too successful, because, you know, Iranians called them out and called out this guy out. But he just showed his true colors, right? He literally showed his true colors. He is literally willing to push this fake news story from Haaretz, which we established is completely false and completely baseless. But he is literally pushing these anti-Semitic tropes about Israel and Israel being behind the Iranian opposition, just because he suffers from Pahlavi derangement syndrome. This is how vile and disgusting these people are. And then they claim that they're the real opposition, but they actually have zero support. So there you go. Like, it's wild. It's wild that these people are doing it. And, you know, I tweeted about this. I said, you know, this guy and his cronies tried to infiltrate your community events through the organization Iranian Justice Collective. But no matter how much the far left tries to hide their rabid anti-Semitism, they always eventually expose themselves. So again, like, this is the conspiracy theory. This is the unholy alliance between the red and the black, and these Iranian accounts are exposing it. So I mean, it's incredibly shameful to be on this list. I mean, if I was ever, you know, put on some sort of list where I claim that I'm fighting for the freedom of Iran, and yet I'm put on a list because I'm promoting the same Islamofascist, anti-Semitic, Islamic regime propaganda as, like, treat a Parsi or Farnas Fasihi, like, I would just hide my head in shame. But again, these leftists have no shame, right? Like, it literally spans the entire um, unholy alliance. Again, all the way from the Islamic Republic supporters to the so-called progressive left, all pushing this anti-Semitic trope about how Israel is supporting, or Israel is behind the fake opposition, or whatever, you know, whatever garbage nonsense. And what's really interesting is that they're so deranged, and they're you know, it's like they're foaming at the mouth to share this fake news article. And of course, again, Israelis don't take the article seriously, because they know Haaretz is nonsense. Many of us who are familiar with Haaretz are not taking it seriously. But, you know, again, my message to Iranians is, do not be worried about the article itself, because the article itself is not being taken seriously by non-Iranian media outlets, because Haaretz is a tabloid trash magazine. Anything that Haaretz puts out, generally speaking, it's literally the opposite. So for them to even put out this article, if anything, it's basically proof that, you know, Israel's not behind anything. That, you know, again, it's a legitimate movement. But what's even more interesting is that King Reza Pahlavi was in fact in Toronto at an event a few months ago, and it was an event organized by this Jewish group this Jewish organization called Tafsik. And when they organized this event and King Reza Pahlavi came and spoke, there were over 1,000 people in attendance at this event organized by the Jewish community. You know, it was a combination of Iranians and of course Jews. And you know, the Canadian Jewish community saw with their own eyes how much support King Reza Pahlavi has in person, right? They saw the support in person. It wasn't some sort of like fake Israeli operation, right? So they saw how much support King Reza Pahlavi had. In fact, let me see if I can find it here. Like I'll find a picture of it if I can. Put it up here. Yeah, here we go. So let me share this with you. This here we go. Oh, this is perfect. What am I doing here? Okay, share this tab instead. So wait. There we go. So here you can see this post from Tafsik, and you know, he was so King Reza Pahlavi was here. I mean, does this look like AI bots to you? I mean, does this look like let me fix my screen here. Sorry, guys. I'm not very good at this without two monitors, but here we go. So I mean, does this look like AI bots to you? I mean, look at that. Look at that. I mean, that's a pretty significant crowd, right? I mean, that's like over 1,000 people right there who came to Toronto or at the Toronto event when King Reza Pahlavi was speaking. So this is you know, an event organized by Tafsik. So again, the support is there. This was Tafsik's second biggest event that they've ever hosted. The first one was, of course, their inaugural event, which had about 2,000 people attend. But this is the second biggest one. So the Jewish Canadian community themselves saw with their own eyes how much support King Reza Pahlavi has from the Iranian community, from the Iranian opposition. And so again, to go back to this, you know, the shameful leftists, again, these people are desperate and they are willing to promote any sort of conspiracy theory or blood libel if it means that, you know, Pahlavi will not return and free Iran. And I truly believe that there is something more nefarious going on here. And I will be digging into this because I believe one of the reasons that some of these leftists, like, you know, this guy right here and his fake organization, one of the reasons that they are so anti-Pahlavi is because these people are professional fundraisers, right? Like their only goal, like they claim that they want Iran to be free, but they are making money off of the suffering of the Iranian people. And at some point, I will dive into the fact that the liberal government created this fund of $76 million to quote unquote fight the IRGC in Canada. They made that announcement, and then this guy. Sorry, I hate when I do this. I accidentally swiped left and I exited the studio. So this is why I need two monitors so I don't make that mistake. But anyways, let's go back to where we were. Okay, so at some point I will speak about the fact that under the Liberal government they created this fund um, where like they claimed, you know, $76 million. They created a fund of $76 million to fight the Islamic Republic, and then we didn't hear anything about it afterwards. And then this guy, Kaveh Shahruz, creates this like, you know, organization called the Iranian Justice Collective. And so I have always been curious as to what happened to those that $76 million that was created and where that money went. And we are going to be doing a deep dive into that as well, because that is $76 million of Canadian taxpayer funding. And it would be very interesting to see where it's going, especially when you have people who claim that they are fighting the Islamic Republic, and yet they are literally promoting Islamic Republic messaging. And not only is this messaging, not only is this blood libel against the Iranian, against the Jewish people, but this messaging is also very dangerous for people inside of Iran, because the Islamic Republic has recently made increased the amount, or what's the word I'm looking for? They have introduced new laws that make it even easier for them to murder Iranians. Not that it was very difficult in the first place, but now they're like making laws to legitimize their massacre of Iranians who they claim support Israel, right? So I mean, just a few days ago, 6 or 7 Iranians were hanged by the Islamic Republic for the crime of supporting Israel. Now, of course, that's completely bogus, but the reality is, when you live in a brutal Islamic dictatorship, you could, it's basically a death sentence, right? Like, you could be executed at any time for any reason with no proof and no evidence. So on top of the fact that they're promoting this anti-Semitic blood libel against Israel, they are also directly contributing to the death and the murder of innocent Iranians inside of Iran. So, and then what's interesting about this tweet is that it actually goes through every single person here, and it shares what they've posted. So, a lot of this stuff is in English as well. So, for example, Trita Parsi is someone who is the founder of NIAC, the National Iranian American Council. And as I explained, the National Iranian American Council is the Islamic regime lobby group in the United States. So here you go. He said, "We always knew Israel played a key role in manipulating public opinion on the Iranian diaspora through social media in favor of Reza Pahlavi during the Masa Amini protests." So first of all, this is interesting. So the study, the Citizen Lab study, never talks about the Masa Amini protests, right? The Citizen Lab study, if we go back to it, the Citizen Lab study refers specifically to the 12-day war, which was in June of 2025. Okay, so that's what the study refers to. It refers to a very short time frame, about a 2-week time frame, not even, it's like 12 days, right? In 2025. However, this guy, he is extrapolating from that, and he's claiming that this Israeli influence operation goes as far back as 2021. It goes back as far as 2021, and he cites the Haaretz article. So again, do you see how these Islamists are lying and are promoting? How do I close this? All right, there we go. Do you see how these Islamists are lying and how they're promoting these conspiracy theories? Because we've already established several times, the study has nothing to do with King Reza Pahlavi, and in fact, it's very, very time limited. But that's what these Islamists do. They lie. So here, he's flat out lying. Citizen Lab and Haaretz can now reveal what amounts to smoking gun evidence. What smoking gun evidence is he referring to? There is literally no smoking gun evidence, but these people are counting on non-Iranians not paying attention, right? Because we Iranians, we know the truth, but they're not putting this out there for the Iranian people. They're putting these conspiracy theories out there for the non-Iranians, because they are trying desperately to promote this conspiracy theory, hoping that policymakers or journalists or whoever will pick up on it. But if you do any sort of digging, you'll see that it's completely untrue. The Haaretz article is full of lies, first of all, and the Citizen Lab article has absolutely nothing to do with King Reza Pahlavi. So that's the first lie. And then you go, and then he continues on and gives more like garbage nonsense. And then of course this guy, who claims he's a lawyer, he claims he's an academic. He's literally he's the stupidest person I've ever met. He tried to become a politician, wanted my advice because I was a politician at the time. And I basically told him off. I was like, over my dead body, am I ever going to help you become a politician? And then I called him out on his nonsense. And then he basically blamed me for not being able to become a politician, which, it had nothing to do with me. It's just basically, I was like, I'm not helping you, and over my dead body. But he didn't like that because he just assumed that I would help him. But anyway, so again, he claims he's smart, he claims that he's intelligent, probably never bothered to read the article, which is terrible on its face. But what's even worse is that if he actually did read the article, the Citizen Lab study, he would see that there's nothing in the Citizen Lab study about anything that he's talking about. So which is it? Is he an idiot or is he a liar? Either way, he's promoting anti-Semitic blood libel. Like, look at this. It's an AstroTurf Israeli influence. So again, my warning to especially the Jewish community in Canada, do not trust the Iranian far left. The Iranian far left, they are not your enemy. They are not your friends. The Iranian far left are not your friends. They are your enemies. They are the enemies of us Iranians fighting to overthrow the regime. They are your enemies as well. They are part of the academic institutional rot. They have the same ideology that destroyed Iran in the late 1970s, and they literally have no shame. They are so blinded by their anti-Semitism. They're so blinded by their hatred for Israel. They're also so blinded by their Pahlavi derangement syndrome that they are literally willing to propagate lies in order to maintain some sort of legitimacy. And I did it again. I did it again. I'm so sorry. I really need to get a second monitor so that this does not happen again. My apologies. So where was I? Geez. Okay. There we go. Okay. I'll have to be more careful. Yeah. So where was I? I was saying, you cannot trust these people. They are so blinded by their Pahlavi derangement syndrome, and they're also so blinded by their rabid anti-Semitism that they can't hide it. And so they're literally foaming at the mouth. But no one else is sharing this. It's only the Islamists and the communists and the anti-Semitic far left, right? Which goes to show that, and I want to end it here. I want to conclude with this, because when we Iranians speak about the army of the red and black, when we speak about this unholy alliance of communists and Islamists, this is exactly what we are referring to, where you literally have people who are both, they are both on the Islamic side, Islamic terrorist side, and the communist side, and they are literally uniting to spread this propaganda. And it was this unholy alliance and coalition that ruined Iran in 1979. These sorts of lies and propaganda and nonsense, they are starting it again. So there you go. I hope that I've been able to fully explain to you how these anti-Semitic and anti-Iranian conspiracy theories happen, where they come from. You saw it's like this broken telephone scenario where you have a study that speaks specifically about certain accounts. And as I showed you, those accounts have nothing to do with the legitimate Iranian opposition. They don't even use the same hashtags that the legitimate Iranian opposition uses. And then you have the Haaretz article, which is far left tabloid, trashy magazine that even Israelis don't take seriously. It's a tabloid that literally called Hamas Freedom Fighters. One of the authors of that Haaretz article is, collaborating with NIAC. NIAC is the National Iranian American Council, which is the pro-regime lobby group for the Islamic Republic. So one of the authors is working with the Islamic regime lobby group, and the study that the study that Haaretz quotes does not mention Pahlavi, and yet Haaretz just makes the assumption that the study, Haaretz making the assumption that the study is about King Reza Pahlavi, which is furthest from the truth. And then you have these Islamists and communists and anti-Semitic traitors who take it even one step further. They take it one step further and they add even more blood libel to it, and come up with their own lies. And they expect people to just sit back and remain silent. But what I can tell you is that, first of all, no one is buying the Haaretz article. Like, no one in mainstream media is going to buy that. But the only thing that this has done is it has exposed the enemies of the Iranian people. It has exposed them for who they are, and not as much the Islamists, because the Islamists are easy to spot. But what it has done, what it has done is it has really truly exposed those people who claim that they are fighting the Islamic Republic and they are on the left, and they claim that they're supportive of Israel, and they did so in order to infiltrate into the Israeli community. But yet, by promoting this article and calling it an Israeli astroturf operation or whatever, they have truly exposed themselves for who they are. So this is the nonsense that we Iranians have been dealing with for 47 years. This is the propaganda and the lies that we have been fighting back against for the last 47 years. And thankfully, because of social media, we now have a voice. We are now able to call out the nonsense. And this isn't coming from me. This is coming from Iranian accounts, right? I mean, again, I've kept track of a lot of these accounts. I've bookmarked them, because it's important. It's important. And like, this account has almost 82,000 followers. They have a Telegram account. They have a YouTube channel. They're constantly making videos exposing this. And I mean, look at this. Look at this. I mean, this Haaretz article literally gave Javad Zarif condolences on the passing of his mother. Javad Zarif is literally, I think right now he's a foreign affairs minister of the Islamic Republic. He's a big proponent of the Islamic regime. Of course, works for. He's a mouthpiece for the Islamic regime. Haaretz gave condolences to this terrorist, and his mother. Like, who does that, right? But this is the nonsense that we're dealing with. And again, Iranians uncovered this. They uncovered this right away, right? So that's why they're keeping tabs on all of these Islamofascists, on all of these communists. Oh, Haaretz. Okay, thanks. All right. It's pronounced Haaretz. Okay, I'll try to remember that. Sorry, Haaretz. Sorry, I don't even really speak about that magazine very much, but thank you for that. So guys, if you liked this episode today, I'd appreciate if you can go to my YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, maybe share it, give me a follow. And I hope that this provided a clear and concise explanation on the Haaretz lies that have been exposed, but also how the Islamic Republic uses its propaganda networks and its controlled opposition, right? So what we mean by controlled opposition are those people who claim they are fighting against the Islamic Republic, and yet they are literally pushing the narrative and the lines of the Islamic Republic, right? And this picture right here, is a very good example. The one that I had up there, right? This one right here. Very, very good example of who the controlled opposition are, right? People that you might think are fighting against the Islamic Republic. Nope, they're part of the controlled opposition. So I encourage you all to, be vigilant, and just remember that if you see any Iranian who is promoting anti-Semitic propaganda or pushing, this Israel is behind it narrative, they are enemies of the Iranian people, and they are most likely, connected to the Islamic Republic in one way, shape, or form. So again, thank you everyone for joining, and I will see you tomorrow at 12 noon. I think this is a good time for me. So I've been playing around with um, the times for when to do my daily show, and I think I've settled on 12 noon Eastern, because 12 noon Eastern also allows people in Europe and also people in Iran to join as well. So that's probably what I'm going to do, Monday to Friday, 12 noon Eastern time every day. I'll come on, do a live stream, speak about the pressing issues of the day, of course mostly dealing with Iran and of course Israel as that relates to it, and let's have a conversation. So thank you everyone for joining. I appreciate your support, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And let me know in the comments on my YouTube video what you thought about today's show. Thank you everyone. Payande Iran, Javid Shah.